Oh, hey, today's your unlucky day. Let's get into it. Hey guys, it's FanaticGuide, and today there was an Apple event. And one of the things that was introduced at this Apple event was a new iPhone. Actually, four of them. One was the iPhone 13 in two sizes. We'll get into them later. And the other was the iPhone 13 Pro, also available in two sizes, which we'll also get to later. But we're going to start with the iPhone 13, which, like I said, is available in two sizes, both the 5.4-inch iPhone 13 mini. I'm surprised they kept that around, given that the iPhone 12 mini didn't sell very well. And also the 6.1-inch quote-unquote regular iPhone 13. But the biggest change to the screen is that the notch is 20% smaller. I think it's best represented by this image, and I did reveal a spoiler that I'm going to get into later. I think it's best represented by this image. So they did rearrange some things like the camera, the front speaker. So the front speaker now sits at the very top of the bezel. And so if this were like down here, the front-facing true depth camera would be somewhere over here. So they moved that from the right all the way to the far left of the notch, and all the Face ID stuff is incorporated within there, which is why they moved the speaker up. And going back over here, they did change the design. They did change the camera orientation, so now it's diagonal. And you have the ultra wide camera over here and the wide angle camera here. And not my cup of tea, but still, it's okay. They are both 12 megapixel cameras. And the wide angle features sensor shift image stabilization, which was first introduced on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And by the way, this is on both the 13 mini and the 13. And for those of you who don't know what sensor shift image stabilization is, it is also known as in-body image stabilization. It incorporates a floating sensor to help counterbalance any movement within the camera. So I thought you might want to have that down, just in case you are wondering. And also it is physically larger, and it captures, it's actually 47% bigger than last year. The sensor is the wide sensor, and that basically allows it to capture more light in darker environments with less noise. And like I said, 12 megapixel lens, but this time it has an f1.6 aperture, while the new ultra wide lens can capture at an f2.4 aperture, and it still has a 120 degree field of view. And something the new cameras will feature is photographic profiles. And this is something that they introduced with the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, which will allow you to customize the look of your photos even further for more consistency across shots. But the big news in terms of video is a new cinematic mode to basically take movie-like video. I'm just paraphrasing it. So when you're recording a video, it'll automatically transition focus while filming in real time, and it'll intelligently shift focus when people enter the frame or glance away from the camera. And you can also manually change the focus or lock the focus on a particular object for more precise control. And the front-facing camera will also feature this new mode as well. So I thought I might want to mention that too. And again, a huge leap in battery life, you'll notice every day, even though Apple never mentions the battery capacity. We end up finding that out from third parties, and they also never mention RAM. So what they say is that the 13 mini will get 1.5 hours more battery life than the 12 mini, while the 13 should get up to 2.5 more hours of battery life compared to the iPhone 12. And that's because both 13 models will have bigger batteries, a more efficient processor in the A15 Bionic, and additional software improvements and optimizations. Obviously, ceramic, should we know about that, and obviously with the durability stuff. And talking about the A15, I didn't mention that. Apple always says it's faster and more powerful than the previous year's system on chip in iPhones. They always say stuff like that, but on paper, it's a huge difference, but in real life, it ends up being just a minimal difference. I don't know if that's going to be true with the A15, given that it'll have 2 new high performance and 4 new high efficiency cores, and also a new video encoder and decoder. But we'll see with the speed tests. But anyway, I thought I might want to throw that out there. And going back to this, I showed this earlier. All iPhone 13 models will start out at 128 gigabytes, which is good for storing all your photos, apps, and whatnot. 64 gigabytes is just not enough anymore, as photos end up taking up more space, as will videos. 64 gigabytes is just proving to be not enough. And new for the iPhone 13 is a 512 gigabyte option. And that's for both models. Yeah. And of course, Smart HDR4, we can't forget about that, because of Smart HDR3, we talked about that last year with the iPhone 12. Did the iPhone 12 have night mode selfies? I think it did. If I'm not mistaken. And anyway, I believe we have in fact covered everything with the iPhone 13 besides the pricing and when it will come out. So, pre-orders will start on the 17th, so this Friday, and it will officially release on the 24th, so a week after that. And pricing, we will look at that as the color as well as the colors. So here's the 13 and the 13 mini. And the colors also got overhauled a bit. The blue to me looks the same as what's available on the iPhone 12. And so does the midnight. It looks the same as the iPhone 12's black unless it's a darker hue of black. Starlight is just white, product red, and new for this year is pink, which this is not the first time Apple has offered pink on an iPhone. They first offered it with the iPhone 6s. At the time, it was called Rose Gold. And they also offered it on the original iPhone SE. And then again on the iPhone 7. And then when the iPhone 8 came out, they rearranged all the color options. And that included a new gold, which to me looked more like actual rose gold. So that's my take on it. And so, pricing for the iPhone 13, well, actually we're going to start with the mini first. Starts at $699 with the carrier, but if you get the unlocked version, it'll start at $729. And the 13 is $100 more. Anyway, let's hop over to the 13 Pro. Alright, so we are now looking at the iPhone 13 Pro, and this is where the fun is. And no, that's not Pacific Blue on the iPhone 12 Pro. That color did not carry over. That is a new color called Sierra Blue. And we are going to go over a lot of things that this has because, again, like I said, this is where all the fun is. Again, 20% smaller notch, the same notch as in the iPhone 13. But obviously, same size screens as in the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max. But there are some differences between the OLED screens in the iPhone 13 lineup and the iPhone 13 Pro lineup. This uses a ProMotion display which can go from a refresh rate of 10 hertz all the way up to 120 hertz. So now Apple is basically on a more even playing field with Samsung and other Android competitors. And if we go to the back, this is the back of the 13 Pro. If we look back here, all variants of the 13 Pro will get sensor shift image stabilization, which I did go over when we looked at the regular 13, and that's why this camera bump is bigger. In my opinion, I do think it looks out of place on the regular 13 Pro. I think it looks just fine on the Pro Max. And here is the new Sierra Blue color. The rest of the colors look just fine. And we do have a gold color, an actual gold. It is more reminiscent of the gold on the 11 Pro lineup. And of course, graphite. So this is not really a carryover. The gold is more 11 Pro gold than 12 Pro gold. The 12 Pro gold was more of a more creamy, if I say so. And some other things, going back to the camera, the telephoto, not the telephoto is right there. Why am I all tongue twisted? That's the ultra wide. Still tongue twisted. The wide angle and telephoto have switched places, so the wide angle is now down here, telephoto is up here. So now the telephoto lens can shoot up to 3 times zoom optically, which will enable 6 times optical zoom across all 3 of the phone's lenses. And now all 3 of the cameras have night mode. And now there is a new macro mode for photographing subjects at just 2 centimeters, which is just unbelievable. But on the software side, I can get to it. Ceramic shield, we already know that. Blah, 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 blah. On the software side, if we can get to that, I just went over macro. Oh, what the hell? They announced a new photographic style feature, which looks like it works like a little like traditional camera filters with an added dose of computational photography. However, on the video side, the cinematic focus feature, which was announced for the iPhone 13, will also be available for the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. I'm not going to go over that again. And here is what macro video looks like. I can show that. Again, some examples of night mode. And I want to find some examples of new photographic styles features if I can find it. Here are some examples. Here's an example of cinematic mode. Focus goes on that person, then when they turn their head, goes to them, obviously. So you don't have to really do any post-processing related to that. Basically makes you even more lazier than you already are. So here's the photographic styles feature that I was talking about. So basically, you can change the tone and warmth of the photo if you really desire. I mean, this stuff is like next level. And on the video side of things, it'll be able to film up to 4K at 30 FPS in ProRes, which is a Apple video format or higher quality video format that gives video editors more control when tweaking footage after it's been shot. Though the base 128 gigabyte storage option will top out at 1080p at 30 FPS. Unfortunately, very unfortunately, I think that is because that kind of video will take up more storage. Like, recorded at 4K, not 1080p. It's recorded at 4K, it'll definitely take up more storage. But Apple says ProRes support will be available in a future update to iOS 15. But anyway, internally, both the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max will use the A15 Bionic chip, which the iPhone 13 uses, like I mentioned, and it'll offer, obviously, the familiar CPU and GPU speed increases. And Apple says the chip should be faster for machine learning tasks. How familiar? I'm guessing that's related to the neural engine. And battery life has also been improved. That's due to the larger battery in all the models, not just the 13 mini, but also the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. They say the 13 Pro will last 1.5 hours longer than the 12 Pro, and the 13 Pro Max will last 2.5 hours longer than the 12 Pro Max. And like I said, we still don't know what the battery capacity will be because Apple has not revealed those figures, nor have they revealed the figures for RAM on both the 13 line and 13 Pro line. We end up finding those things out eventually from third parties. And also, the biggest news is that the 13 Pro's storage options, not just the 13 Pro but also the 13 Pro Max, will range from 128 gigabytes to 1 terabyte, if you can believe that. I don't imagine anyone ever using that much space, but it is very good to have 1 terabyte of storage, especially if you're a content creator or you're using it to create movies, if you ever do that. But I think in my opinion, it's very useful to have that much storage. But anyway, it's first for the iPhone, obviously, because the 12 Pro, I believe, went from 120 to 512 gigabytes. But anyway, moving on from storage. 5G performance has also been upgraded with support for more bands, which Apple says should provide better coverage. And anyway, that is about it. For those of you wondering about pricing, it's the same starting price. I'm actually going to pick out colors so you can see what the 13 Pro Max looks like. You see what I mean. The camera bump doesn't look out of place here, in my opinion. Less so than it does here. They enlarged the camera bump here because of the sensor shift image stabilization, but they kept it the same here. But anyway, pricing for the 13 Pro will range from $999 to $1499. Obviously, you can see the pricing for yourself. The Pro Max will go from $1099 all the way to $1599, which is big money for a smartphone. But anyway, for those of you who don't have the money to cash in on the latest iPhone, here are the iPhones that are still on sale. Obviously, the iPhone SE is going to be sticking around for quite some time, even though we hear that there is a new one coming out sometime next year that will reportedly get 5G and the A15 Bionic, and that's about it. No changes to things like the screen and stuff like that. It'll reportedly have the same iPhone 8 chassis that the current one has, and that's about it regarding that. The iPhone 11 is also sticking around, but $100 less. And both the iPhone 12 and 12 mini will be sticking around, which is a huge shock because I thought the 12 mini would be discontinued, or I thought the 12 mini had ended production, if the rumors are correct. And the 10R and the 12 Pro line have been discontinued. Obviously, the iPhone 12, the regular one, is $100 less. So, anyway, if you found this helpful, then please make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you next time.